For centuries, humans have sought to alter their perception, expand it, escape from it, and understand it. Today we call it cannabis, and everyone thinks they know its effects. Red eyes, dry mouth, that hunger that appears without warning. But what few understand is why it happens. And when you understand why, something changes. Because you no longer see it as just a simple habit. Instead, you see it as a deep interaction with your own internal system. Today, we're not going to talk about opinions. We're going to observe the body like an ancient master would, with precision, with curiosity, and without deception. And maybe in the end, you won't see this the same way. Before any external substance existed, before anyone lit anything, even before you knew what cannabis was, your body already had a system ready to interact with it. It's not a coincidence. It's not by chance. It's by design. It's called the endocannabinoid system. And no, it's not something modern that appeared with today's culture. It's an ancient system, profound, integrated into your biology since forever. A system that doesn't make noise, but is working at every moment of your life.
Cuando te sientes en calma,
it's there. When you feel anxious, it's there too. When you're hungry, when you're full, when you sleep, when you desire, when you're motivated, or when you don't feel like doing anything at all, that system is operating in the background, like an invisible regulator, a guardian of balance, because its main function is not to give you pleasure or get you high or relax you. It's to keep you in a stable state, homeostasis, that state where everything works as it should, without excesses, without deficiencies. Now, this is where most people don't realize what's really going on. Within this system, there are receptors. CB1 receptors are predominant in the brain in areas related to memory, pleasure, perception, coordination, and decision-making. Basically in everything that makes you who you are. And CB2 receptors are more widely distributed throughout the body, the immune system, tissues, organs, areas where the physical response is regulated. Now imagine this clearly. Your body is full of locks. And these locks aren't there by chance. They're designed to receive very specific signals at very precise moments with almost surgical precision. They activate when they should and turn off when they're no longer needed. That's the balance. But then THC comes into play. And this is where the story stops being subtle, because THC doesn't come in like a delicate signal. It doesn't come in with precision. It comes in like a key that fits many of those locks at the same time. It doesn't ask, it doesn't wait, it just enters and it activates. And it changes everything because you're no longer modulating the system, you're overstimulating it. It's as if in a room full of switches, designed to be turned on one by one, someone decided to turn them all on at once. Lights, fans, alarms, everything working at the same time. The result? An altered state, sometimes pleasurable, sometimes confusing, sometimes profound, and other times just plain weird. And this is where another main character comes in, one that many mention, but few understand. CBD. Unlike THC, CBD doesn't try to dominate the system. It's not the one that comes in making noise. In fact, it's quieter. It interacts in a more indirect way, modulating, softening, adjusting. It doesn't get you high in the classic sense. It's more like that friend who doesn't talk much. But when he does, he brings order to the conversation. While THC tends to push the system, CBD tries to balance it. One speeds things up, the other regulates. But here comes the point that changes your perspective. Your body already produces its own cannabinoids. Yes, you don't need anything external to activate this system. Your body generates similar substances in exact doses at the right moment to maintain that balance we were talking about. That is, the system wasn't created for cannabis. Cannabis fits into a system that already existed. And when you understand this, the usual narrative starts to fall apart because you're no longer adding something new. You're interfering with something that was already perfectly calibrated. And of course, that doesn't mean it's good or bad. It means it has an impact, a real measurable impact. Why? Because when you modify a system that regulates your perception, your motivation, your hunger, your rest, you're not dealing with something superficial, you're affecting the very foundations. And this is where many people only focus on the fun part, the sensations, the relaxation, the laughs that come easily. But they ignore what's happening underneath. It's like enjoying the music without realizing that someone is messing with the wires of the electrical system. Everything might sound fine, but something is being altered, and the question isn't whether that system responds, because it does respond. The question is, to what extent do you understand what you're activating inside yourself? Because when you don't understand it, you're not experiencing, you're reacting. The first impact, heart and pressure. When TH enters your body, it doesn't do so quietly. It's not a substance that passes by silently. It doesn't go unnoticed or slip by without a trace. No, the body detects it and responds. The first to react is the heart. Its rhythm increases. It beats faster, stronger, as if something had suddenly changed. And the curious thing is that there isn't always a real threat. You're not running, you're not in danger, but the body acts as if something important is happening. It's as if someone had flipped an internal switch and the cardiovascular system says, okay, something is happening, let's gear up. But this is where the story gets interesting, because while the heart speeds up, the blood vessels do the opposite. They relax, they expand, they open up. This is called vasodilation, and what it does is make the blood flow more easily with less resistance. So you have two forces happening at the same time. On one hand, the heart is pumping faster. On the other hand, the pathways where the blood circulates are opening up. It's like you're revving up the engine, but widening the road at the same time. The result? A strange sensation. Your body isn't in full stress mode, but it's not completely at rest either. It's in somewhere in between, hard to define, a hybrid state. And this is where some people say, I feel weird, but okay. Of course, because the system is active but not collapsed. It's stimulated, but not on high alert. It's a kind of artificial balance, a state where the body moves but also relaxes. Now, there's something else that few people mention when the blood vessels dilate. Blood pressure can drop, and that in some people can cause sensations like lightheadedness, slight dizziness, and that feeling when you stand up quickly and the world takes half a second to settle. Nothing dramatic in most cases, but enough for you to notice that something isn't working as usual. And here's where an interesting detail comes in. The body isn't failing, it's adapting in real time to a signal it didn't expect to receive in that way. Why? Remember this. The endocannabinoid system is designed for fine, precise, almost millimetric adjustments. But THC doesn't arrive subtly. It comes as an intense, sustained signal that pushes the system beyond its usual range. And the body does what it does best: compensate, adjust, balance what has been altered. Now, from the outside, it may seem simple. The heart beats faster, the vessels relax, that's it. But from the inside, it's a complex choreography, a constant attempt by the body to stay in balance, while something external pushes it in another direction. And here comes the key point. That feeling that many describe as relaxation is not always pure relaxation. Sometimes it's the result of two opposing forces happening at the same time: activity and calmness, drive and openness. And at that crossroads, the experience begins. An experience that is not only mental but deeply physical. Because before what you think changes, what happens inside you has already changed. And the heart was the first to notice. Red eyes. And no, it's not what they told you. For years, they gave you a convenient explanation. It's the smoke. Simple, quick, and convincing enough not to question it. Or if your eyes water, it's the smoke. If they turn red too, case closed. But that story is too superficial for what's really happening. Because if it were just the smoke, how do you explain that the exact same thing happens when there's no smoke? Edibles, oils, tinctures, beers, no combustion, and still the eyes speak. And when the body speaks, it's best to listen. What really happens is much more interesting. Inside your eyes, there's a network of tiny blood vessels, small, almost invisible, but essential. And those vessels have cannabinoid receptors. Yes, there too. When THC enters your system, it binds to those receptors and causes something very specific. Vasodilation, the vessels relax, they expand, and allow more blood to flow through. And when that happens in the eyes, you can't hide it. The blood fills those tiny capillaries, and the white of the eye stops being so white, it turns red. Not because it's damaged, not because it's irritated, but because it's more full of life than usual. It's increased circulation, made visible. It's as if your body for a moment removed the filter and lets you see what normally stays hidden. Now, there's something curious here. A lot of people try to hide it. Eye drops, looking down, sunglasses that now look suspicious. But the body isn't trying to hide it. The body is showing it. Because the eyes don't just see, they also reveal. And in this case, they're revealing that something inside your system has changed, that the vessels are more open, that the internal dynamics have been altered. And here's a detail that few people consider. This doesn't happen immediately. It's not like you take one puff and automatically your eyes are as red as a traffic light during rush hour. It takes time. Why not? It's not a superficial reaction, it's an internal progressive process where the pressure, circulation, and vascular response are gradually adjusting. It's the body reorganizing itself little by little. And when that adjustment reaches a certain point, it becomes visible. That's why sometimes it takes a while, that's why sometimes it's more intense, and other times it's barely noticeable. It depends on the context, the body, the dose, the moment. But the mechanism is the same, and understanding this changes your perspective because it's no longer something external that irritates you. It's something internal that transforms you. Your eyes aren't reacting to the environment, they're responding to a signal that comes from within, and that's much deeper than it seems. Because when something internal becomes visible, you can no longer pretend it's not happening. Your gaze reveals it. Even if you don't say anything, your mouth goes dry, your body chooses what to focus on. Dry mouth, that uncomfortable sensation that appears without asking for permission, is not a failure, it's a message. Your body produces saliva all the time without you noticing, without you asking for it. Not just so you can talk or swallow without sounding like a rusty robot, but because something much more important starts there: digestion. Saliva contains enzymes that begin to break things down.
Lo que comes, lubrica, protege.
It's, in a way, the first contact between the outside world and your internal system. And normally it works silently, but when THC comes into play, something changes. The salivary glands, parotid, submandibular, sublingual, also have cannabinoid receptors.
Y cuando el THC se...
Them. Saliva production decreases. It doesn't stop completely, but it drops enough for you to notice, and you notice it quickly. Suddenly, you swallow and there's nothing. You talk and feel like your words aren't flowing. You start drinking water as if it were the solution to all your existential problems. And at that moment you think, this is annoying. But what's happening is much more interesting. Your body isn't failing, it's choosing. It's redirecting resources. Because when the endocannabinoid system is activated in this way, other functions come to the forefront. Perception, sensation, internal processing, and functions like saliva production stop being a priority. It's like your body is saying, right now we're focused on something else. And of course you interpret it as an annoyance. But from the inside, it's an adjustment, a shift in focus. Now there's something even more curious. This sensation doesn't depend on the smoke. Again, because even without smoking, dry mouth still happens, which confirms once again that it's not an external reaction. It's an internal response. A direct consequence of activating a system that regulates multiple functions at the same time. And here's a small detail that many people ignore. Dry mouth is not just uncomfortable. It's also a sign that the balance has changed. Because when you reduce saliva, you also alter the natural environment of the mouth. Less protection, less natural cleansing, more vulnerability if it becomes frequent. Nothing serious if it only happens occasionally. But it is relevant if it becomes a habit. That's where the body starts accumulating.
Pequeñas consecuencias que no siempre son evidentes al principio, pero más allá de lo físico, hay algo casi simbólico en esto. La que normalmente fluye.
That's where the body starts to change. That's where it starts to change. And while you're looking for water, your system keeps working. Change. That's where T.
Organizando prioridades.
It always does, silently. The big myth is falling apart. For a long time, the explanation was convenient. It's the smoke. Done, case closed. A quick answer so you don't have to think too much. If your eyes get red, it's the smoke. If your mouth gets dry, it's the smoke. If you feel different, well, the smoke is up to its old tricks again. The smoke took all the blame. Like that friend who pays the bill even when he didn't order anything. And of course it made sense. Hot air, particles, irritation. A logical story, easy to accept. And above all, easy to repeat. But reality is rarely that simple. Because when humans change the way they do something, the truth starts to come out. And that's exactly what happened. Suddenly, people stopped smoking and started consuming cannabis in other ways. Edibles, oils, extracts. No smoke, no combustion, no excuses. And yet, eyes were still red, mouths were still dry, and hunger still showed up as if someone had unlocked a secret level of appetite. You can't blame the smoke anymore. Something doesn't add up there. And when something doesn't add up, you either ignore it or you dare to look deeper. And when they looked deeper, what they found was this. It wasn't an external effect, it was internal. THC doesn't need smoke to do its job. It doesn't need to irritate anything. It just needs to get in and find what was already there. Receptors, open doors within your biology. And the moment it binds to them, a silent conversation begins inside your body. A conversation you don't see but you feel. The smoke may be the vehicle, but it was never the origin. It's like blaming the car for the destination you choose to go to. The real protagonist was always inside, your endocannabinoid system. That system that regulates your balance, that adjusts your internal state, that keeps everything in a kind of invisible harmony. And suddenly, THC comes in and starts pressing buttons that are normally activated with precision. But now, without that fine control, it's as if someone walked into a room full of switches. And instead of turning on just one, they activate them all at the same time. Some effects you'll like. Others not so much, but they all come from the same place. Not from the smoke, but from the direct interaction with a system that wasn't designed for that kind of constant stimulation. And this is where a lot of people get uncomfortable, because this breaks the easy narrative, because you can no longer say, it's just the smoke. Now you have to accept something deeper. Your body responds because it's being activated from within. It's not something that happens to you from the outside, it's something that happens inside you. And that completely changes your perspective. Because when you understand this, you no longer see consumption as something superficial. You see it for what it really is, a direct intervention in one of the most delicate systems in your body. And yes, you can ignore it. You can keep saying it's not a big deal, but your body doesn't agree. And your body responds, always. Smoking isn't the same. When you introduce a substance into your body, it's not a minor detail. It's literally what defines the experience. It's not the same to touch the surface of the water as it is to immerse yourself in it. When you inhale cannabis, the path is direct. The THC enters through your lungs, passes into your blood, and within minutes it's already in your brain. Fast, without filters, without detours. It's like lighting a spark. You feel it almost instantly. It rises quickly, settles in, and then over time, it starts to come down. It's a more controllable, more predictable experience. You can measure it, adjust it, decide if you want more or to stop. But when you ingest it, everything changes. There, speed is no longer a factor. You're dealing with transformation. THC doesn't go directly into the system. First, it goes through the digestive system, then it reaches the liver, and something key happens during that process. It turns into another substance, more potent on a psychoactive level, deeper, more intense, and harder to anticipate. In other words, it doesn't just arrive later, it arrives differently. And this is where many people get overconfident, because at first, nothing happens. And that nothing happens is dangerous, because the mind interprets it as, I probably need more. And then you eat a little more, and then a little more. And just when you decide this isn't working, it starts. Subtle at first, then more noticeable. And suddenly, you're in it. You can't pause it, you can't turn it down, you can only go through it. It's like a wave that seemed distant, calm, harmless. When it comes, it doesn't just touch you, it surrounds you. And this is where the experience becomes more introspective, more intense, sometimes even overwhelming. Because the body has processed the substance, has transformed it, and has integrated it in a deeper way. It's not a superficial impact, it's something that unfolds from within. Now, this doesn't mean that one is better than the other, it just means that they are completely different experiences. One is a quick fire, the other is a slow burn. One lets you play with the edge, the other pushes you beyond it without warning. And here comes the point that few say out loud. Most bad experiences with cannabis don't come from smoking. They come from underestimating what you ingest, from believing that since you don't feel it, nothing is happening, until it does. And when it happens, you're no longer negotiating. You're in the process and the body doesn't have an undo button. That's why understanding this difference isn't just a technical detail, it's a matter of awareness. Because when you know how something enters your system, you start to understand how it can transform you. And then you no longer react. You decide the hunger that doesn't make sense. Inside your brain, there's a silent center that decides what you imagine. It doesn't shout, it doesn't announce itself, but it directs. The hypothalamus. A small nucleus with enormous power regulates your temperature, your hormones, your energy, and something that seems simple, but isn't at all. Hunger. Because real hunger isn't just the desire to eat. It's a perfectly coordinated signaling system. Your body detects energy levels. Hormones like leptin and ghrelin send messages, and the hypothalamus interprets all of that to tell you one very specific thing. Do you need to eat? Or is it enough already? That "I've had enough" signal is key. It's what stops you, what sets a limit, what keeps you from eating more when your body already has what it needs. But when THC comes into play, that balance is disrupted, not in a chaotic way, but in an almost ironic way. Because THC doesn't destroy the system, it tricks it. Inside the hypothalamus, there are neurons designed to trigger satiety, to tell you you're full. But when THC binds to the cannabinoid receptors in that area, something changes in their function. And this is where the story gets fascinating. These neurons, instead of reinforcing the satiety signal, they start to behave differently. They release substances that, instead of stopping you, push you to keep going. It's as if the guard protecting that limit fell asleep on the job, and then no one stops you. But it's not just that. THC also alters the way you perceive food. Flavors become more intense. Smells become more appealing. The experience of eating becomes more pleasurable. What used to be just regular food now seems like a feast, and of course if you combine two things, less of the "that's enough" signal and more pleasure when eating, the result is inevitable. You eat more. Not because your body needs it, but because your perception has been altered. And this is where many people get confused, or that's what they think. I'm hungrier. But it's not real hunger. It's a distortion of the signal. It's like the system that regulates balance is sending altered information, like a GPS that suddenly decides all roads lead to the fridge, and you trust it. Now there's an even deeper detail. Hunger in many cases isn't just physical, it's emotional. And THC, by interacting with the reward and pleasure systems, can amplify that feeling of wanting more, not just food, more stimulation, more sensation, more experience. And that's where eating becomes an extension of that impulse. It's not nutrition, it's a search, seeking something that in reality isn't in the food. But in that state, it seems like it is. You can open a bag, finish it, look at another one, and think, well, one more won't hurt. Spoiler, that's exactly what you thought about the last one. And this is where the concept becomes almost symbolic, because at that moment, you're not eating to fill your body. You're trying to satisfy that feeling. And that feeling can't be filled that way. But the altered system doesn't know that, or rather, it can't stop itself. It changes the way you see that hunger, because it's no longer just a curious effect. It's a direct window into how a substance can alter your perception of need. And when your perception of what you need is altered, you start to lose clarity about what really does you good. And before you realize it, you cross a line, not by eating more, but by stopping listening to what your body was trying to tell you from the start. And if you've made it this far, stop for a second. Breathe. Because what you just did isn't normal. Most people come in, consume, get distracted, and leave. But you stayed. And that says a lot more about you than you think. There's a part inside you that doesn't want to keep living on autopilot, that is no longer satisfied with the superficial, that is starting to look inward, even if it hurts. And that is the beginning of something very powerful. So write in the comments, "I'm still awake." "I'm still awake" isn't just any phrase. It's a reminder that even in the midst of the noise, there's a part of you that chose not to fall asleep, and that part deserves to be honored. With repetition come tolerance, dependence, and addiction. The human body is not fragile, it is adaptable. And that is, at the same time, its greatest advantage and its greatest risk, because everything you repeat, your body learns. Everything you repeat, your brain internalizes it. It doesn't matter if it's a habit, an emotion, or a substance. If it happens once, it's an experience. If it happens many times, it becomes a pattern. And THC is no exception. When it enters your system occasionally, the body responds, adapts, and returns to balance. But when that experience is repeated, something deeper starts to happen. First, tolerance appears. And this is nothing more than a clear sign of adaptation. What used to have a certain effect on you no longer produces the same result. Not because the substance has changed, but because your system no longer responds the same way. Or rather, the receptors don't respond the same way anymore. Those same ones that used to react easily start to become less sensitive. It's like they're saying, I already know this, I don't need to react the same way. And then you need more. More of it, more often, with greater intensity. To get there? To the same point as before, and here many don't notice it, because the change is gradual, subtle, almost imperceptible. Until one day you realize that what used to be enough no longer is, and without noticing you've crossed the first threshold. Afterwards, dependence may appear, and this is where the story gets more interesting. Because dependence is not just chemical, it's the system adapting. Your brain starts to function expecting THC to be present. Not because it needs it in a dramatic sense, but because it has gotten used to operating that way. And when suddenly you take it away, the system gets out of balance. It's not broken, it's recalibrating. But during that process, signs appear. Irritability, anxiety, changes in sleep, less appetite, like something is missing. And many people interpret that as a real need. But actually, it's a readjustment. A system that was operating with a certain variation and suddenly has to learn to function without it. It's like taking the training wheels off a bicycle after having used them for too long. It's not that you can't ride. It's that you have to relearn your balance. And then in some cases,
aparece la adicción, y aquí hay que ser claros. La adicción no es debilidad, no es falta de carácter, es un patrón donde el consumo deja de ser una elección.
You start to develop a perceived need, where you no longer use it for the experience, but to avoid feeling bad. Where you know there are consequences, but even so, you continue. And here, something even deeper comes into play. The reward system. The same one that motivates you, that drives you, that makes you seek what brings you well-being. TH interacts with that system. And if the experience is repeated, the brain starts to associate that substance with relief, pleasure, escape. And then it seeks it out, not by logic, not by conscious decision, but by learning. And this is where the internal balance starts to give way. Because instead of generating well-being from within, you start to depend on something external to achieve it. And that changes the rules of the game, because when your balance depends on something outside of you, you're no longer completely free. And this process doesn't happen overnight. It's not dramatic at first. It's progressive, silent, almost invisible. Until one day you realize that you're no longer choosing with the same clarity. And that's when control starts to shift. It doesn't disappear completely, but it's no longer entirely in your hands. And that's the point that few want to see, because it's not comfortable, but it's real. The body adapts, the mind learns, and what you repeat transforms you, always. Human beings have an almost automatic need to go to extremes, either demonizing it completely or making it harmless, black or white, good or bad, safe or dangerous. But reality rarely works that way. And with cannabis, it's the same. Not everyone who uses it loses their way. Not everyone who tries it gets trapped. That's the part many people use to justify everything. I'm fine, so nothing's wrong. But that's an incomplete view. Because not everything is innocent either. Not everything is neutral. Not everything is free. There are people who cross a line and others who don't. But that line isn't marked with a bright sign. There's no warning. It doesn't make any noise. You cross it without realizing it. And this is where a factor comes in that completely changes the game. The moment when you start. Because it's not the same to introduce a substance into a system that's already formed as it is to do it in one that's still being built. The brain isn't born finished, it develops. It is shaped over time with experiences, with stimuli, and during that process it is much more sensitive, more plastic, more moldable, more vulnerable. Everything that enters that system leaves a mark, not always visible, but still real. And when THC interacts with a developing brain, it's not just generating a momentary experience, it's interfering with a process in how connections are consolidated, in how motivation is regulated, in how internal balance is established. It's like building a house while someone changes the blueprints without warning. The structure might hold, but something isn't exactly as it should be. And this is where the data starts to reflect what the body already knows. The risk of developing problems increases when consumption starts early. It's not a threat, it's a logical consequence. Now, compared to other substances, cannabis may seem less aggressive, less destructive, less immediate in its mental effects, and in many cases that's true. But here's the most common mistake: confusing less dangerous with harmless, because they're not the same thing. A kitchen knife isn't as dangerous as a firearm, but that doesn't mean it can't cause harm if you don't know how to use it. And something similar happens with cannabis. It's not the darkest end of the spectrum, but it's not outside of it either. It has effects, it has impact, it has consequences, especially when it's used without awareness. And this is where the conversation gets uncomfortable because it doesn't fit with simple narratives, neither with exaggerated fear nor with total carelessness. It stays in that middle ground where you need to think. And thinking is sometimes more uncomfortable than any substance. But it's there, right there, where true clarity begins. The endocannabinoid system has a clear purpose: to keep you in balance. But when you force that system over and over again in just one direction, the balance breaks and the body adapts. It always does. The point is not to judge the substance. That's superficial. The real question is deeper. Are you using something to explore your mind? Or are you depending on something to sustain it? Because there's an invisible limit. And when you cross it, you're no longer the one guiding the experience. And recognizing that moment is what separates consciousness from unconsciousness.